Let's talk about Shane Gillis, the no-talent asshat who was this close to being part of the cast in SNL's upcoming season. Just a heads up, I've been having a really hard time remembering this dude's name every time I've talked about him in the past couple of days. My brain has this thing where it just refuses to commit the names of irrelevant people to my memory. The firing was a direct response to an uproar surrounding racist and homophobic remarks that he had made in the past, and to be fair to him, some of these remarks were as old as 2018. Let's roll a little bit of this clip now heard around the world because it now has about 4.4 million views.
Damn, Chinatown's fucking nuts.
It's crazy, dude.
It is full fucking China, dude. It's
Yeah.
Chinese down there.
I wonder how that started. They just built one fucked up looking building and people were like, all right, no one said anything.
Let
Let's
the fucking chinks live there, huh? Fucking chinks live there, huh? Fucking chinks live there, huh? We got in there and we sat down and baby girl was like, I'm so excited for Nuders. And I was like, yo, chill.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was waiting for the joke. Sir, where is the joke? Where it at? Where's the joke? Blurting out a racist slur is not a joke. It's what stupid, lazy people do when they're trying to be edgy. Based on the minimal exposure that I've had to this guy in the past couple of days, which is already far too much for my liking, he is the epitome of coasting on white privilege for your entire life. This is what I was talking about last week when I said that we need to stop making stupid people famous, because I am bored. I am bored by these guys. This clip started circulating on Friday because that was the day I believe that it was announced that he was going to be joining the SNL cast. I saw it when one of my friends posted it to her Instagram, as well as Gillis's response to the building backlash. And here's what he had to say. Yeah, not helping the matter. Like I said, I heard about all of this on Friday, and I had a hunch pretty quickly based on the response that SNL was going to be compelled to fire this guy. And by Monday, my hunch was proven to be correct. In response to his firing, this guy has posted another statement which just further proves that he really needs to just go away. As he so smugly pointed out, he did make it onto SNL, which is indeed a noteworthy achievement. However, the fact that this guy made it onto the SNL cast, albeit for a whopping 5 minutes, says less about him achieving something and a whole lot more about how systems of privilege allow the most worthless people to continue to fail upward for their entire lives. And while this guy has faced some consequences, there are far too many who never do. Nothing facilitates mediocrity like generational wealth. And if this guy grew up poor, then I'm even more mystified by the fact that we're talking about someone who's so blatantly inadequate. However, in my opinion, this hiring and firing happened because it looked bad for SNL, not because they're taking some sort of stand against unfunny racists, and I'll get into that more in a second. SNL is one of my all-time favorite shows. I started watching it when I was absolutely too young to be watching it. But despite the liberal stance that they take with their actual content in their sketches, it is abundantly clear that this show is not progressive and it is not inclusive. Saturday Night Live started airing in 1975. It took SNL 45 years to hire their first Asian cast member, Bowen Yang, who, unlike Shane Gillis, will be joining the cast in the upcoming season. It took them 16 years to cast their first black woman with Ellen Cleghorn in 1991. And when Cleghorn left in 1995, they didn't hire another black woman until 2014. 2014! That's 5 years ago. Which is recent. Before anyone tries me in the comments, Maya Rudolph is biracial. I love Maya Rudolph, but if you think casting a biracial woman is the same thing as casting a black woman, Google the word erasure. So it was 2014 before SNL was able to find even one black woman talented enough to join the cast since Ellen Cleghorn left in the 90s. It took 19 years, unless we forget the seemingly unspoken one black guy at a time policy that they seem to have for forever, just so they could have someone to play the Al Sharptons and Obamas, because let's face it, having Fred Armisen playing Obama for that short stint was not a good look. I love me some Fred Armisen, but they were dead wrong for exploiting his multiracial makeup time and time and time again. It really highlighted the lack of diversity on that show. Every time that they race bend Fred Armisen or Kate McKinnon or any other cast member past or present, it has called attention to their long history of failing to have an inclusive cast. I realize that it sometimes comes down to picking the cast member who can do the impression the best or just inhabit the character the best. But with this show, with Saturday Night Live, it comes down far too often to having 15 white males and not much else. I'm pretty sure it wasn't until Kenan Thompson and Finesse Mitchell started as featured players in the early 2000s that they finally realized, oh, it's actually okay to have two black people of the same gender at the same time. It is also embarrassingly recent that they cast their first Latina cast member with Melissa Villaseñor. But guess who also has a past of racist, unfunny internet comments? That's right, Villaseñor had to go on a tweet deleting spree in 2016 right after her casting was announced. She deleted something like 2,000 tweets in 5 days. There are receipts and I will link some of them below. This actually pains me more though because I do think Villaseñor is a valuable addition to the cast. Again, way too late to be adding a Hispanic woman in my opinion, but more importantly, I actually think she's funny. But as many of you guys know, what I am offended by is the unfunny. And these deleted tweets of hers are nowhere within the vicinity of comedy. I know these tweets are old, blah, 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 we all have a past. But if you're in a position where you're working a temp job, you are too goddamn old to think any of this shit is okay. I ask again, where is the joke? Because based on these remarks, she didn't, and likely still doesn't, see black people as equals or even as individuals. We're either jolly, good, or scary, bossy, ugly, bad. There is no joke. This is just a person who routinely took to Twitter to dehumanize black people and those Mexicans. So why wasn't she fired? Well, pretty much for the same reason that Shane Gillis was fired, if you ask me. Optics. It took SNL 4 decades to hire one Latina cast member. So after all that time, I'm guessing that it would have looked even worse to fire her immediately, even though her past offenses are on par and, in my opinion, equivalent to the asshole we're talking about today. They are both assholes. The difference is when it comes to mediocre white guys being mediocre, SNL has an overstock. I'm not sure whose uncle plays golf or goes to the same yacht club as whoever else's uncle, but Shane Gillis never deserved to be on that show. He doesn't even meet the bar of mediocrity that SNL's worst cast members have set. Let me be clear, though they are often plagued by weak cast members and or even weaker writing, many of my all-time favorite comedians and comedic actors are straight white males who were on SNL. You're not always going to get your Will Fortes and your Bill Haders and your Jason Sudeikis. Sometimes you're going to get a Shane Gillis. Will Forte caliber talent is in short supply. We're just at a time in history where SNL actually has to keep up appearances. They can no longer publicly align with these dime a dozen wannabe edgelords who are too stupid and talentless to realize that they should have never tweeted in the first place, or had a podcast, or said any words out loud ever for any reason. Even if it is only for appearances, I'm glad they fired this guy because the end justifies the means. And I will remain as conflicted about Villaseñor as I was before. I mean, let's keep it a buck. SNL is still a very racist institution, 45 years in, and they've just hired their first Asian cast member. Not to mention, they're still clearly keeping some kind of quotas on their black and Hispanic cast members, just keeping enough people of color around so that they have plausible deniability in the face of anyone who challenges their inclusivity. I'm just tired of waiting around for things to get better, for things to change. All of these show business institutions are fighting tooth and nail to appear like they're giving us a seat at the table when they're really not. And I'm thinking maybe it's time we just built our own table. That is it for this Tuesday evening edition of Nobody Asked You Ho. Y'all let me know if you had heard about this story at all, because this is definitely the type of thing that hits my radar based on my interests and the interests of my friends. So it wound up in my feed and I had a lot of feelings and thoughts on it. So it's been interesting to watch it play out over the past couple of days. Thank you for hearing me out and keeping me company. But before I go, I will leave you with a reminder. And that is to never trust anyone with a Morphe code. Bye-bye.
That's some nappy-headed hose there, I'm going to tell you that now.